There are 59 fully evolved dark types in Pokemon. Let's rank all of them right now in a competitive singles context. At the very bottom of the list, the worst dark type in the game is unfortunately one that I quite like, Mighty Ina. This is one of the most unfortunate Pokemon in history, because it doesn't look weak, it looks like a frightening hyena, but it is extremely weak. Mighty Ina has very low stats in every area. Low attacking stats, low defensive stats, and low speed. Doesn't really accomplish much. Mighty Ina's move pool is shallow, it has some okay dark type physical attacks, but with only 90 base attack and not much in the way of coverage, it is just a pretty terrible dark type attacker with little to offer. And you may be thinking, well, at least Mighty Ina has Intimidate, Jimothy, that's a good ability. Intimidate lowers the enemy's attack on switch in, and sure, that's something, but it's not much of a help to a mono dark type with such frailty to its name. It at least allows it to achieve a -1 stat drop against the enemy, but I'm sure it will perish soon after. The other ability is Moxie. Could be worse, but more suited to like a fast attacker that can get more out of it. Mighty Ina is not the greatest Moxie abuser. Moxie, if you're not aware, grants a +1 attack boost if you earn a KO with an attack. Good ability, but Mighty Ina not exactly an explosive snowballing threat, is it? And I'm going to say it, I could take Mighty Ina in a 1 vs 1. With these stats, with this move pool, yes, you could crunch me. That's neutral against a normal type human being. I could probably do a bit of martial arts training to learn the move counter and strike Mighty Ina back with a devastating counter attack to end its life. I could take Mighty Ina if it came to it. I would not resort to violence unless it came to it, but I'm just putting that on the table. Up next is Alolan Raticate. Yet another atrocious Pokemon, and I'm very sorry to say so, but it's simply the truth, I must be honest. Alolan Raticate is one you would probably expect to be bad. I mean, it is a rat, it's early game Route 1 creature, and all that. This one manages to be even worse than regular Raticate though, which is kind of impressive. Alolan Raticate does not have guts, like base Raticate, which is actually a good ability that gives Raticate some damage output. No. Alolan Raticate has Hustle, which is way worse. Hustle grants 1.5x attack damage at the cost of accuracy. Usually it's not good to cut accuracy, because you're going to miss your attacks. That's bad. You'd much rather Guts, which is more consistent, and also raises your attack. Your other option is Gluttony, which is just totally useless. You eat berries at half HP instead of the usual 1/4 HP, or how incredible, you're eating berries a bit sooner. Raticate, you glutton. You have no patience. Alolan Raticate is a rather sinful Pokemon, engaging in a bit of gluttony, and the other ability option is Thick Fat, which grants an effective fire and ice resistance. I mean, just a dreadful option on a Pokemon with 0 defensive value. Dark Normal is the typing. You can perish even earlier to fighting type attacks thanks to a ×4 weakness. Alolan Raticate also now weak to Fairy. Dark typing, I suppose, comes with the benefit of Psychic immunity, but I mean, I would take a regular Raticate over Alolan Raticate any day of the week. An atrocious Pokemon. It might even seem weird to put this above Mighty Ina, because Mighty Ina at least has Intimidate. But apparently Alolan Raticate is a bit better in the lower tiers of Gen 7, because it could use Z moves along with Hustle for one big hit, because a Z move can never miss, so you bypass the accuracy debuff of Hustle. You also got Stab and Knockoff and Sucker Punch, which have a bit of merit. You might hit a bit harder than Mighty Ina and achieve a bit more than Mighty Ina, I suppose, but it's not by much, folks, believe me. And spiritually, I think Eradicate Alola is a bit worse. Up next is Thievul, a despicable Pokemon from the Generation 8 video games. He only exists in Gen 8 also. Thievul is a career criminal with little to offer. Extremely poor stats, shallow move pool, terrible bulk. 90 base speed is alright for these lower end dark types, but Thievul is scarcely accomplishing very much. Folks, Thievul does have one good trait to its name, and that is the ability Stakeout, which is actually a scarcely seen ability that is very good. Your offensive stat is doubled against a target that switched this turn. So if you force a switch and the enemy takes the hit, when the switches in takes the hit, they will take double damage, pretty much. A really nice offensive ability that can be great for wall breaking, but Thievul doesn't have a very high special attack with which to take advantage of this. It's alright in the ZU tier of Gen 8, but beyond that I'm not sure Thievul has much value at all. By the way, thank you to the Smogon player Oof Hixt, who has given me a bit of insight on some of the lower end members of this list, as they know a little bit about Smogon lower tiers in past generations, and sometimes that knowledge can be hard to find on the forums and such. These are obscure metagames where it's hard to pick between Radicator, Lola, and Thievul. Who has ever compared these Pokemon before? I'm attempting to, and so someone who has actually played in the obscure formats where these exist is very helpful to me, so thank you for that. Up next is Absol, and I am apologetic about this one because a lot of people love Absol. It's a bit of a fan favorite in the visual design department. Unfortunately, they made Absol slow and frail. When you're slow and frail, it's difficult to achieve much in a competitive Pokemon context, is it? Because you don't outrun anything to hit with your attacks, and if you get hit, you will probably perish. This is a big problem. Absol does have an impressive 130 base attack, actually a very good attack stat. And it at least has Sucker Punch for a priority option. Its physical move pool is actually okay. It gets Knockoff, gets Close Combat for coverage. That'll do you pretty well, just that alone. Close Combat and Knockoff, and Sucker Punch for priority, of course. But I believe it got these options a bit too late. These are more recent options, and they're just far better Dark-type attackers than this. Its abilities are also not the best. Super Luck for slightly increased critical hit rate. Not very consistently good. Sometimes you'll get more crits. I mean, it's an unreliable ability. Pressure is completely useless on a frail Pokemon. Enemy consumes twice as much PP. Totally useless. And then the other option is Justified. Get an attack boost if struck by a Dark-type attack. Could be useful, a bit too conditional, a bit too hard to pull off. Absol just kind of underwhelming in all areas, unfortunately. Up next is Guzzlord, and folks, I'm celebrating right now because this is the last time I have to speak about Guzzlord in one of these videos. I already did the Dragon Rank where we discussed Guzzlord, much to my dismay. And here we are with Guzzlord again, and this is the last time you will ever see the light of day on my channel. Guzzlord, I hate you. I hate your guts. Guzzlord is a freakish Pokemon. It's disgusting. It's got crab claws and a big mouth. The claws come out of its mouth. It also has hands. It's a gross Pokemon, inside and out. Its stats don't make any sense. The stat spread is an eldritch horror. It's got a massive HP stat, but very low defenses, low speed, and its attack stats aren't even very good. You'd think maybe this would be better than some of the Pokemon I'm going to rank above it, but in practice, Guzzlord scarcely achieves anything. It's amazing the Pokemon that are above Guzzlord. You'll be amazed at what ranks above Guzzlord. But it's the truth. Even with what seems to be a pretty good HP stat, the result is a frail, slow Pokemon that doesn't do anything. It's got no K move pool, but it's not enough defensive options even. It's like an attacker that doesn't do enough damage. It's the weirdest Pokemon ever. I hate it very much. It's got Beast Boost. What stat is it even getting? Attack, I suppose? Gets attack off Beast Boost? No, not even. Do you invest full attack on Guzzlord? What do you even do with Guzzlord? This is my damn problem, is what do you do with this? Who is this guy? I don't want to speak about you any longer, Guzzlord. I hate you. And I would rank you lower if I could. I couldn't in good conscience put you below Raticate Alola. Just doesn't make any sense. But I would if I could justify it. The name Guzzlord is also gross. What kind of name is that? Why would you call yourself that? Up next is Cacturne, who I'm ranking quite low here. Cacturne is dreadful. It's a dreadful creature, inside and out, really. Grass dark typing, horrible defensively. You're wide open to many weaknesses. Plus it's a slow, frail mixed attacker, the good old Hoenn special, which is just dreadful. Such terrible defenses and speed. The only real saving grace of Cacturne is its pretty good move pool. It has spikes, which is sometimes useful in lower tiers. It has Water Absorb as an ability, which grants immunity to water and healing when struck by water. That's good. It's got Sucker Punch, I suppose, to make up for its low speed with priority. Pretty decent stab options, but in practice the guy stinks. He's a real prick, if you don't mind me saying. And you might think I should give it bonus points for being very powerful in Gen 3 OU for a time due to abusing Sand Veil, but I consider that to be illegal technology that I shouldn't even count here. That doesn't even count. And it was so despicable morally that I think we should not incentivize Pokemon to do that kind of thing further by including it in the power ranking. So just to make sure something like that never happens again, I'm not going to count that. And we're going to judge Cacturne based on its merits outside of Sand Veil, which is illegal and very dishonorable. And outside of that, Cacturne has little to offer to me, or to anybody. Up next is Morpeko. I'm putting Morpeko above Guzzlord, which doesn't make sense when you look at them next to one another. Morpeko is far smaller. It's a hamster. It has a cylindrical sort of pill shape. Doesn't make any sense, and yet in practice, I believe Morpeko is a better Pokemon than Guzzlord. Morpeko is pretty bad, don't get me wrong. He's a little hamster. He's electric dark type. I believe he's the only electric dark type, actually. With pretty poor stats, especially low defenses and HP. But Morpeko actually has one of the strongest attacks in the game to its name. It's an exclusive attack called Aura Wheel, a hamster wheel themed move. This move has a 110 base power, 100% accuracy, and it grants a +1 speed boost upon being used. That's excellent. High power, 100 accuracy, and a speed boost. A truly elite move. And its type depends on the form of the Morpeko. If Morpeko is in full belly mode, it will be electric type. If Morpeko is in the hangry mode, Aura Wheel will be dark type, and it alternates each turn because of Morpeko's ability Hunger Switch, which changes its form at the end of every turn. On top of Aura Wheel, Morpeko also has Knockoff. That's good. It has Rapid Spin, actual utility. Plus it's thematic with the hamster spinning. Plus it's smart. So you can remove some damn hazards with Morpeko, and you have Parting Shot as well for the utility of pivoting and lowering the enemy's stats a little bit. I can't believe it, but Morpeko actually achieves more in a battle than Guzzlord, who may have a ridiculous HP stat, but it doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't have good moves, really. Morpeko has far better moves. A 95 attack, actually not that bad for a lower end Pokemon here. Lower end of the list, 95 attack is workable, 97 speed as well, plus you gain speed from both Aura Wheel and Rapid Spin. So Morpeko, punching above its weight. He's just a little hamster and he's better than whatever Guzzlord is. That's commendable. That's very commendable. Up next is Alolan Persian. Funny cat Pokemon. Alolan Persian is kind of weird because it has a great speed stat, but every other stat sucks. But having a good speed stat can go a long way, I suppose, and this is the proof. This is a decent Pokemon in ZU tier due to its high speed and access to Parting Shot for pivoting, Knockoff for item removal, Foul Play for damage that can be conditional on the opponent's stat, therefore deal more than your attack stat would allow you to. And Alolan Persian also has Fur Coat, which is one of the best abilities in the game, granting a straight-up double defense. So even though your base defense is pretty low, Fur Coat ends up giving you a reasonable defense stat, or a better defense stat than you would expect on this cat. So Alolan Persian's kind of alright in ZU. Mind you, it is in ZU, which is the lowest tier. But Alolan Persian achieves more than Guzzlord. Right, I should stop defining Pokemon's success based on whether or not they're better than Guzzlord, because otherwise Guzzlord's feelings might get hurt if I keep saying that. Guzzlord is not the benchmark for whether you're good or not. I'm probably better than Guzzlord as well, but I have more intrinsic value than just how I compare to Guzzlord, so I'll stop doing that. But Persian Alola, good ability and good utility and high speed results in a decent low tier Pokemon. Up next is Malamar. A strange creature indeed. Bird octopus. It's got a beak, but it's an octopus. These are incomprehensible times we live in. Malamar. I'm ranking pretty high here, to be honest, considering how terrible it is. Dark Psychic. Dreadful combination. Your time's 4 weak to bug, for goodness sake. That's going to really put a damper in your viability. Also, Malamar has extraordinarily terrible stats. I suppose they could be worse, but they're very unimpressive. But Malamar does have the ability Contrary, which is a great ability that inverts stat stage changes. And the move Superpower, which would usually lower your attack and defense by 1 as a drawback, but now due to Contrary, you gain attack and defense every time you use it. Purely for this combo of Contrary and Superpower, I'm giving Malamar a little bit of respect because it can ramp with a good attack that basically casts Bulk Up every time you click it. And it can be a win condition in lower tiers as a result. They seem to run Rest Talk with it, which kind of makes sense because you just hope to hit Superpower through Rest Talk. You got a Knockoff for Dark Stab and item removal. And this could win a game. You go full special defense here on the EVs. And maybe it can snowball to the point of victory. And you know what else is useful about this Pokemon? This is a useful Pokemon if you're ever in a situation where you're at a Chinese restaurant where nobody speaks English, but you are wondering whether the dish that you're ordering has a numbing spice flavor. If you're in that situation, all you have to do is say the name of this Pokemon. It's that simple. Malamar. Up next is Skuntank. Skunk Pokemon. Very unpleasant Pokemon to be around, but I give Skuntank a slight, and I do mean slight, amount of respect here for having a very good typing. Poison Dark is actually one of the best type combos in the game, with only a single weakness to ground, and a beautiful amount of immunities and resistances and such. Great typing. And Skuntank is alright in lower tiers as a guy that clicks knockoff, and it gets Toxic Spikes, it gets Gunk Shot. That's a high power move. Skuntank is okay in lower tiers. Its typing does a lot of heavy lifting. Its ability is alright, Aftermath. When it gets KO'd by a contact move, it will deal 1/4 of the enemy's HP in damage. It's better than nothing. It's not a fantastic ability, but it deals a bit of damage on the way out. You can't complain with that. Not much to say about Skuntank. It's pretty bad, but it just has a better typing than other Pokemon mentioned thus far, giving it slightly more merit in perhaps the PU tier of some generations. Up next is Shiftry, a Grass Dark type Pokemon. Shiftry is cool. I like its leaf hands. He's got a nice head of white hair. Looks like someone I know. Shiftry has the ability Chlorophyll, which gives it some merit in some Ubers formats. Chlorophyll grants double speed in the sun. Can be used alongside my favorite Pokemon Groudon for a synergy. That's the main reason I'm ranking it above other things. Chlorophyll, great in some early generations. Shiftry is competing with Exeggutor as a Chlorophyll setter in those early gens, but sets itself apart with the good Dark typing, which has some merit in Ubers formats where there's a lot of Psychic types. And I believe it's also a bit faster, which is valued. In a world without permanent weather, Shiftry is not great though, regrettably. It's ranked ZU in most gens, struggles to do much. But they at least gave it a cool new ability in Gen 9, Wind Rider, which also Brambleghast gets. Wind Rider grants an immunity to wind moves, including Hurricane and Blizzard. That's good. Some relevant moves that Shiftry completely evades. It also, if struck by one of these wind moves, Shiftry will receive an attack boost. That's fun. You will also receive an attack boost if Tailwind begins. Pretty fun ability design. And a cool thing to give Shiftry. Give it something new, why not? Up next is Mabostiff, new Gen 9 dog. Hello, Mabostiff. Mabostiff is pretty cool. I like it. Similar design to Thievul in that it's a dark type with the ability Stakeout. Very good offensive ability that grants doubled offensive stat if the target is switching. But Mabostiff is quite a bit better than Thievul with superior offensive output off the back of a 120 attack stat, and Mabostiff can actually be a pretty good world breaker with such high attack and Stakeout. Pretty incredible damage output achievable from this dog. Unfortunately, its move pool is a bit shallow. Its best Dark Stab is Crunch. They didn't give it Knockoff. Doesn't get Knockoff. Quite regrettable. It gets Play Rough, which is alright, and Psychic Fangs. I mean, honestly, whenever you're dipping into Psychic coverage, it's often because you lack anything better. Does it get, like, any fighting move? No. Reversal, you can't really use that. That's not really usable. Just a shallow move pool is this dog's demise, unfortunately. But now, if this dog had a knockoff or close combat, maybe there'd be a different story. Maybe he'd be higher on this list. We don't live in that reality, though. Somehow the guy gets Destiny Bond. He can make a pact with the next life to take you with it if he perishes, apparently, but he cannot do fighting type damage of any description. Why does Mabostiff get to make a pact with the Great Beyond to take you with him if he dies, but he cannot punch you with close combat? Interesting. Does Mabostiff looks like he convenes with ghosts? Does he look like he can convene with ghosts? That he learns Destiny Bond? Is there a logical explanation for the dog learning Destiny Bond? Can a dog bind my life force with his life force through an ancient curse? Can this be done by a simple dog? I don't know. I'm not so sure that makes any sense. Pokemon Company. Up next is Brute Bonnet, the past paradox form of Amoonguss, and rather a dreadful Pokemon all around, isn't it? Brute Bonnet is a grass dark type that is very slow, which is a bit of a death sentence because there's a lot of weaknesses you're worried about, especially that times for bug weakness. Brute Bonnet has decent HP and defenses, I suppose, but the typing just leaves you wide open to so much. Brute Bonnet's attack stat is good. 127 is a respectable attack stat. It also has Sucker Punch to make up for its low speed with a priority option. Close combat is good coverage too. But it doesn't get knockoff like other dark types. That's a blunder. And it also really suffered from the universal sleep ban that banned sleep moves altogether in Gen 9 OU, because one of the saving graces of this Pokemon was that it had access to Spore to put things to bed. Not a great Spore user, by the way, just because it's so slow. You want some speed if you're using Spore. Probably Breloom's going to be better. But in some lower tiers where Breloom's not legal, Brute Bonnet had value, but no longer with Spore banned. Apparently a great Pokemon in ZU, so it has that going for it, and it might be alright in prior gens, with Spore, if it existed. Overall, I'm not too fond of the Pokemon. I think Brute Bonnet is a bizarre name. Bonnet? I mean, it's a sort of headwear. I guess the mushroom, top of a mushroom, looks like a bonnet, maybe? It's a weird connection. Brute Bonnet. It's inelegant. I don't believe that a creature is called that. I just don't think a creature is called that. And yet you're insisting that that's the case in your fictional world of Pokemon. I just don't believe that a creature would be called Brute Bonnet ever. Up next is Bombardier. And unlike Brute Bonnet, this is an excellent Pokemon name. Bombardier is very intelligent. Cool Pokemon, dark flying type guy with pretty bad stats, especially for modern times. At least has a 103 attack. Has a pretty good move pool though. It's got knockoff, it's got sucker punch, and I believe it also learns stealth rock, which is very useful. Learns taunt for some utility. And Bombardier also has the unique ability Rocky Payload. Very interesting. This Pokemon's offensive stat is multiplied by 1.5 while using a rock type attack. Bonus damage on rock type attacks is pretty good. Allows your rock coverage to hit much harder, and rock is a good offensive type, so that's useful. What's funny though is a lot of Bombardier sets seem to completely ignore this and just go for big pecs, which prevents your defense from being lowered. A pretty bad ability, but a lot of sets just don't run a rock move because they'd rather run like Parting Shot for pivoting and stat lowering or other things. You don't really need rock coverage on every set. Sometimes you run it, but many sets just go the big pecs. Bombardier is just kind of an average Pokemon. It's all right in the PU tier of Gen 9, it would seem. It's got pretty good moves, pretty high attack for that low tier, but unremarkable otherwise. I personally stand with Bombardier though, and I'm there for him if he ever needs anything. Up next is Spiritomb. Spiritomb is pretty bad, with a low HP stat and average stats elsewhere. But it was reasonably okay in early generations as a result of its typing. Ghost Dark back then was very good typing. It is still good typing, to be honest. At the time, this was the only dual type combo that granted 0 weaknesses, because Fairy didn't exist in earlier gens. And with a decent 108 in each of its defenses, Spiritomb set itself apart from the other dark ghost type available at the time, Sableye, with perhaps a little bit more defensive merit. In its move pool, it has... Spiritomb also has okay attacking stats and a fairly impressive physical and special attacking move pool. It's got Will-O-Wisp, which is useful utility to spread burn. Spiritomb was actually a viable choice in Gen 4 OU. It's been used before at high level play, I've seen it before. And it was alright in the middle tiers in Gen 5 and 6. Kind of garbage since it has been outclassed. Dark Ghost is not as great as it used to be, and there's less and less merit to it. So its move pool is not as impressive in modern times, where more things have more options. Some might say I'm overrating Spiritomb, probably a little bit, but I give it a modicum of respect here for being pretty good in early gens. Up next is Zoroark. Deceitful Pokemon. Zoroark is known for its signature ability Illusion, which disguises it as another Pokemon. Whatever the last Pokemon in your party is, Zoroark will pretend to be that Pokemon and appear as them until it takes damage, and then the disguise will be broken. It's an interesting mechanic that in practice isn't as cool as it sounds. Usually the disguise gets broken or the opponent covers it or it's obvious. Sometimes you can do some mind games. Maybe you're a fighting type that you're disguising as. They use a psychic move and it turns out you're immune because you're secretly Zoroark, something like that. So most of the time it's not going to achieve much for you though. And Zoroark ends up just having to exist on its own merits as an average special attacker. It's pretty fast. 105 speed is decent and 120 special attack, also quite good. It's even got a decent mixed attacking stat of 105 in the physical attack department. Zoroark tends to be alright on these merits in middle tiers, RU and UU. and for that I give it some respect. But there's nothing particularly outstanding about it either. It's very frail. It's not that fast for how frail it is, and its move pool is good, but just nothing particularly insane. It's an okay special attacker that has a little bit of an illusionary gimmick, engaging in a spot of deceit to trick opponents. But let this be a lesson to you all that deceit doesn't get you very far in life. You must, at the end of the day, reckon with who you are. You cannot use somebody else as a mask to hide what is underneath. At the end of the day, you must look into the mirror, and if you don't like what you see, that's your problem. Up next is the Pokemon Incineroar. I have little to say about this Pokemon. There's nothing noteworthy about Incineroar. No one's ever mentioned him before. Incineroar is considered a taboo Pokemon to reference in videos, so I'll make it quick. Incineroar has poor qualities for the competitive singles environment, with low speed, poor bulk, and a fire typing, leaving it vulnerable to Stealth Rock. It's an okay pivot in mid-tiers sometimes, perhaps. It's got okay physical move pool, but really more of a doubles Pokemon. Far more successful in the doubles environment, where Intimidate and Fake Out are very powerful, and that combination is very powerful. If I speak about Incineroar any longer in my Pokemon video, I will be shunned due to the widely accepted etiquette that you never mention Incineroar unless you have to. I have to because I'm ranking the dark types. I must mention him, but in other contexts it's very, very frowned upon to mention him, so I'm going to leave it at that, folks. Thank you for understanding. Up next is Liepard, who is famous for breaking the game multiple times with the move Assist. Liepard has the ability Prankster, which grants priority to non-attacking moves, and the move Assist, which is a non-attacking move that will randomly use another move loaned by a teammate. Liepard could be abused with this combination to utilize certain moves with priority if you build the team in a certain way such that Assist always calls that move. The most famous is the Dive Cat strategy. Liepard could equip the item Lagging Tail, which causes you to always move last in your priority bracket. It could then use the move Assist to call Dive. This would still have priority on it, and to be executed first against most things. Dive would be executed, which causes you to go underwater and be invulnerable. But then when you select Dive again, because of Lagging Tail, you will go last in the turn, last in your priority bracket, resulting in a scenario where you are always invulnerable, because you dive under the ground and gain immunity with priority, but then you lose the immunity last in a turn, so the enemy can never attack you and you just slowly chip them to death with Dive. A very despicable strategy. Assist could also call Roar, so that it had priority on it and bypass the negative priority that Roar is supposed to have, and you could spam Roar and rack up Stealth Rock and Spike's chip damage and eventually defeat the enemy without them being able to do much about it. Beyond these ridiculous game-breaking strategies, though, that eventually got the move Assist entirely banned from Generation 5, Liepard is kind of bad beyond that. Prankster is useful and does have some nice options to abuse with Prankster, like Encore and Thunder Wave, but its stats are mediocre. Its move pool is mediocre offensively. So it's a weird one to rank, because it did sort of solve the game and create an unbeatable strategy, but also beyond that, it's garbage. So where do you put a Pokemon like this? It's a great question, and the answer that I've come up with is that Liepard is a little bit better than Incineroar, when you average out the fact that it's game-breakingly powerful and got Assist banned, and also that it kind of sucks in every other area. That's just about 1 point above Incineroar when you finish up with all the high-level mathematics and averaging out all those factors. That's about where Liepard ends up. Up next is Pangoro, a cool panda Pokemon that looks very physically imposing and can stand upright and stuff like this. Pangoro is a fighting Dark-type Pokemon who is rather slow, only 58 speed, but the bulk is alright, 95 HP and 78 defense, 71 special defense. Could be worse. It can take a hit. And its attack stat is excellent, 124. Maybe I'm overselling it, calling it excellent, but it's good. It's a good attack stat. And Pangoro's attacking move pool is pretty good. Close combat for stab, you can't go wrong with that. Knockoff. These are the two best moves you could really ask for stab. Gunk Shot is pretty fun coverage. Parting Shot for a bit of pivoting. It's a decent mid-tier Choice Band Breaker. Pangoro has some good abilities like Mold Breaker to ignore enemy abilities, and Scrappy to hit ghost types with fighting and normal type attacks, which is always very nice. Now, Pangoro is ultimately pretty frail. It's times 4 weak to Fairy as well. That's quite debilitating. And it's slow. It's not amazing, but it's alright as a physical breaker in the mid-tiers. That's where Pangoro stands. Up next is Scrafty, who I've always thought to be a weird creature. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It's like a humanoid, sort of a chicken head. It can't be a chicken, it's got pants. Very odd Pokemon, but actually surprisingly good for how weird and average it looks. The stats are unimpressive. 115 in the defenses is alright, but it's slow at its low HP and 90 attack is nothing amazing. Scrafty is a dark fighting type, a good typing in some ways. Nice offensive combination, and Psychic Immunity complements fighting typing. Scrafty also has some good abilities. Intimidate is always excellent. Shed Skin is useful to cure status. 33% chance, repeating of course, to cure status at the end of every turn. That's good. And Scrafty also has Moxie, which grants an attack raise upon earning a KO. If you want to go in a more offensive direction. Scrafty is a decent Pokemon in middle tiers as a result of these traits. A set like this with Bulk Up and Rest is pretty good alongside Shed Skin, because Shed Skin can cure the self-inflicted sleep from rest pretty commonly. Scrafty's sturdiness against status also makes it a nice Bulk Up boost sweeper, with Drain Punch to heal itself and Knock Off as excellent Dark Stab. This guy's shedding its skin. I guess its pants are its skin, and it's like a reptile. Scrafty's got to be the weirdest Pokemon ever. I'm going to move on, because this strange creature is starting to freak me out. I'm just going to be honest. Up next is Sableye, a Pokemon I've always enjoyed. A goblin creature with gemstones for eyes. An inspired design. Sableye has some shortcomings. It's got terrible stats. Dreadful stats, truly. But Sableye makes up for its poor stats with everything else. It has a great Dark Ghost typing, very good defensively with only one weakness to Fairy. It has the amazing ability Prankster, which offers priority to all non-attacking moves. And its move pool is good. It has Recover, which also is Prankster boosted, Will-O-Wisp, which is Prankster boosted, Taunt, I believe it gets Thunder Wave as well. Yes, indeed it does. Sableye is a pretty good mid-tier Pokemon in multiple gens as a result of its excellent utility move pool and Prankster. In more recent gens, it's kind of garbage though, the stats are catching up to it. Sableye does look quite weak, kind of a scrawny little creature that would probably die instantly if you just kick it or something. A little bit hard. He looks like he's struggling and he's using tricks and pranks to try and extend his lifespan a little longer. I think Sableye deserves respect for its ingenuity and its intellect. Up next is Wo-Chien. And I don't know if people will be upset that I've ranked this too low or too high. This is a beloved Pokemon. It has a beautiful visual design. Ancient snail creature with wisdom beyond comprehension. Very beautiful creature. Part of the Treasures of Ruin legendary quartet. And as a legendary, you'd expect it to be ranked higher. Wo-Chien has very good defensive stats. Very well-rounded HP defense and special defense. The special defense in particular is very good. Wo-Chien also has the ability Tablets of Ruin, which lowers the enemy's attack, multiplying it by 0.75. So a bit of attack reduction also enhances the Pokemon's effective bulk. But despite being a Legendario and having pretty good stats, Wo-Chien is ranked all the way down in the NU tier, which is a low tier. Wo-Chien's Dark Grass typing is a serious drawback. Pretty terrible defensively for something slow as well. That's the big one, I think, is the typing for a defensive Pokemon is just not very good. And Wo-Chien's move pool is also kind of shallow. It's an alright move pool, knockoff, you can't go too wrong with. That's item removal, you got foul play to at least do some damage to high attack Pokemon, and then the best you've got beyond that is Leech Seed, which is alright on a defensive Pokemon. It saps the enemy's health, heals you a little bit. But Leech Seed in modern times is kind of a slow effect. It's not quite what it once was. It used to be quite a good move, but it's scarcely used these days unless Pokemon have nothing better to do. And that's certainly true of Wo-Chien. It has little else to do. And then it's protecting for chip heal on top of all that. Regrettably, it's just not a great Pokemon. And it's paling in comparison to its brother Ting Lu, who is a far better defensive behemoth. Wo-Chien pales in comparison, unfortunately. It's deserving of some respect just for raw stats and raw bulk. It can switch in on certain things and wall certain things and then get a knockoff, which is nice. There's been some Gen 9 stall teams that use it. When you do a defensive terror, it can be pretty good. And just sort of sit there and wall stuff. But I think that this ancient snail is a little bit too old for combat these days. He would rather rest at home than do battle, which is understandable. And you'd be better off asking him for a parable or something. Ask him for a parable or a piece of wisdom rather than putting him onto the battlefield and making him fight against Raging Bolt, who is much larger than him and can threaten his life. Don't put Wo-Chien's life in peril. Just because you think combat is the greatest virtue in this world, these creatures are defined by their proficiency in combat. That's not true, and Wo-Chien has much more to provide to you if you have the eyes to see, but many of you don't. Many of you don't have the eyes to see, and you don't appreciate this beautiful ancient snail for what it can offer to you. Instead, you thrust it into battle, and you are surprised when it doesn't work. Up next is Drapion. Drapion's kind of cool. It's a scorpion creature. This Pokemon is decent in various mid-tiers like RU and UU, purely due to having okay stats and being a poison dark type. I mentioned Skuntank earlier. He was carried exclusively by its typing. Drapion is similar, but it's a bit better than Skuntank, with a good defense stat, decent speed as well, and serviceable 90 attack. These stats plus the elite typing are enough to make it work in mid-tiers. It has Swords Dance and a pretty good physical move pool, giving it a nice mix of offense and defense. Its abilities are nothing special. It has Battle Armor, which offers crit immunity. Also has Sniper, which offers crit chance, and Keen Eye, which prevents accuracy drops. These abilities are all basically nothing. Battle Armor is probably the best, just to reduce crits. But yeah, Drapion gets by on just good typing and serviceable stats in various mid-tiers. Up next is Sharpedo. This guy is the ultimate glass cannon. It has a great attack stat of 120, a decent starting speed of base 95, but horrendous defenses, base 40 in each. But Sharpedo has the ability Speed Boost, granting it +1 speed passively every single turn. Sharpedo is a bit too frail to be an OU-leveled threat, and it has competition from other fast physical attackers with more to offer, but Sharpedo tends to be quite good in UU formats, which is respectable. Water Dark, a pretty nice offensive typing. It has a good move pool, as Earthquake, it's good coverage, and nice stab. The Sharpedo is a pretty nice late-game cleaner in middle tiers. Up next is Houndoom, a Pokemon that I enjoy, a dog with a fire inside of it. Houndoom has a fairly respectable career, with a viable place in both Gen 2 and 3 OU thanks to its good typing for the time, Dark Fire, which is great offensively and offers such traits as Burn Immunity, Psychic Immunity. Houndoom matches up well against Gengar in these tiers, which is relevant, and it can be a Pursuit Trapper there. Houndoom also received in Gen 3 the ability Flash Fire, which is a great ability granting fire immunity and 1.5x fire damage when struck by a fire move. This gave Houndoom some merit against Moltres and Charizard in Gen 3. And in the generations following, Houndoom found itself often in the UU or the RU tiers. 95 speed is pretty fast, 110 special attack is generally workable. It even has an okay special defense and HP for an offensive Pokemon. By modern standards, these stats aren't very good, but they did the job back in the day. And this is a commendable dog. It's a commendable dog that has things to offer to you if you are willing to accept, and that's something that will vary from person to person, whether you can open your heart towards the dog and allow him in. He might have something to provide to you, for example, a positive matchup against Celebi. He might help you against Celebi because he's immune to Psychic, resists Grass, and Celebi's common HP Fire coverage in Gen 3, he's completely immune to that. So if that's something that you need, Houndoom could help you, which I consider to be good. Up next, Honchkrow, who's a Pokemon I've always liked. A cool bird that has the aesthetic of a criminal underworld boss. Honchkrow has an amazing attack stat of 125, and the ability Moxie, which grants an attack boost on KOs, so it can be quite threatening. It has Sucker Punch as a priority option, a hard-hitting Stab Brave Bird, coverage including Superpower for a fighting-type attack. Unfortunately, Honchkrow does suffer from its awkward stat distribution. The attack is great, it even has a decent special attack stat of 105. but its defenses are very low, 52 each, and it's only 71 in the speed department, so it's not very fast. So Honchkrow has difficulty switching in and posing a threat, hitting the field in the first place. Also doesn't help that you are vulnerable to stealth rock. Now that I look at it, Honchkrow kinda has the Hoenn special with the mixed attacking stats, poor defenses, and the awkward 71 speed, which is sort of fast, but not that fast. Not fast enough to make up for the poor defenses. Honchkrow is ranked UUBL in its debut generation of Gen 4. I think it's UU in Gen 5, which is cool, and it's RU in a few gens, so it's kind of a mid-tier physical attacking staple for a bit there, but in Gen 9, current gen, it's ZU, so it's really fallen off, unfortunately. Kind of crazy that this guy doesn't get knockoff or anything. Still kind of suffering in the move pool department. They've given a lot of things knockoff and close combat over the years, but not Honchkrow. Still effing about with Night Slash for Dark Stab. That's a bit unfortunate in the modern climate. That's not going to do you very well. But since Honchkrow is only a second stage in an evolution line, there is room to give it another evolution. It could get the King Gambit treatment in Gen 10. This is possible. So Honchkrow fans, you just wait. There might be an even more powerful bird on the horizon. Up next is Obstagoon, a British Linoon who has stand up and become a humanoid creature and learned to play rock and roll. Certainly a bizarre creature, but he does exist, and we must accept that. Obstagoon is a pretty good Guts physical attack. Guts is a great ability that grants a 1.5x attack boost if you are statist and also ignores the negative effects of burn, lowering your damage. With a flame orb equipped, Obstagoon can achieve pretty respectable damage output. 95 speed is pretty fast for a Guts Pokemon. Its bulk is actually alright, 93 HP, 101 defense, and 81 special defense. And 90 attack is not amazing, but with the Guts boost and a Stab Facade, Obstagoon can hit pretty hard. It also has Stab Knockoff. That's just about all you need, really. Facade for the big neutral hit and Knockoff for a spammable move that at the very least removes an item. It tends to hit hard as well. Obstagoon has the nice coverage of Ice Punch, and Dark Normal typing also has a bit of merit. Dark Normal means you are immune to Psychic and immune to Ghost. So Obstagoon can actually have a niche in Gen 8 Ubers as a switch into Calyrex Shadow Rider, since it's immune to both of its stab attacks. Yes, Calyrex Shadow Rider can carry Draining Kiss, but Obstagoon at least dissuades it from spamming its Astral Barrage too much, because Astral Barraging into an Obstagoon and giving it a free turn is a bit disastrous. Obstagoon can take advantage, especially of choice-locked Calyrex Shadow Rider, to get huge knockoffs and make serious progress. Even hitting damn hard against the Ubers metagame, which is impressive. Off the back of that plus attack, Facade, and knockoff. Switcheroo is also cool to give somebody a flame orb and burn them. Up next is Umbreon, who is one of the most popular Pokemon in the world. And a solid one too. Umbreon came into existence in the second generation, where it was ranked OU at the time, thanks to its nice mono-dark typing, and its role as a special wall. Umbreon has great defensive stats, 95 HP, 110 defense, and an excellent 130 special defense. And Dark is actually a decent typing for a special wall. Especially before Fairy existed, because Umbreon was only weak to Fighting and Bug at the time, generally more physically leaning types. Umbreon's move pool is not particularly amazing, but it does get the job done. You have Wish for a form of healing, and the Wish Protect combo can also serve to heal you. Umbreon has Toxic, and it still learns Toxic in Gen 9, which is actually kind of a rare trait. A lot of stuff lost Toxic. And that's all you really need on a wall a lot of the time, to just apply some pressure. And Umbreon tends to use Foul Play as its attack of choice, since it deals damage based on the enemy's attack stats. It works well on a defensive wall. In past gens, Umbreon has been a Pursuit user as well, especially in Gen 3, and a pretty good one, setting itself apart from others with its excellent defenses. Umbreon also has the ability Synchronize, which means that if it gets burned, poisoned, or paralyzed, so will the enemy that inflicted that status on it. This is pretty nice, makes Umbreon a good switch-in against these status moves, to at least match the enemy and inflict them with a taste of their own medicine. Umbreon has aged surprisingly well, and has a pretty good career. OU in its debut game, viable in OU in Gen 3, finding itself around a UU and RU for multiple generations, and in Gen 9 it is still ranked RU, which is pretty commendable. A lot of Pokemon that used to be good are now ZU ranked, like Snorlax and such. Umbreon is holding on, purely due to its very solid stats, simple move pool that gets the job done, and the Dark typing also being pretty good for a special wall, even with Fairy type existing for a while now. Mono Dark still does the trick for a special wall. It's not too bad. Well done to Umbreon, who has proven to be one of the more consistent of the evolutions. Up next is Overquill, which is a song by Men at Work. No, it's a Pokemon. This is a Pokemon that is a puffer fish. I like Overquill. This is a Dark Poison type, which, as mentioned before, great type combo. One of the best type combos in the game, with only one weakness to ground and various advantages. Overquill has some good abilities as well. Overquill has access to Intimidate, which you can't go too wrong with. Lowering attack on switch in, always a nice ability. And also Swift Swim, which is interesting, because this is a rare Swift Swim Pokemon that is not a water type. Overquill has seen some usage in OU for its unique traits on rain teams. It can sort of be a utility Swift Swimmer with Spikes and Destiny Bond to trade. Also has a unique offensive profile for a Swift Swim Pokemon, which gives it some value. Intimidate and Spikes and such give Overquill some nice defensive sets too. Overall a cool Pokemon. Its stats are kind of weak, unfortunately. They're all right. 85 HP and 95 defense, as well as 115 attack are good. Everything else kind of average. And Overquill is also ranked NU in Gen 9, which would not seem to be very good, but I think if this Pokemon existed in prior gens, dare I say that it would actually be really good. I could see it being OU, in fact, in some gens. It also has some OU viability in Gen 9, plus it's very cool. Am I overrating it? Am I overrating Overquill? No, I'm not. I'm appropriately evaluating Overquill by Men at Work. And you leave me alone. Up next is Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is such a difficult Pokemon to evaluate, to be honest, because it's really good at one job. It's really good at setting screens. Grimmsnarl is a Dark Fairy type, pretty good type combo. It has the ability Prankster, which is amazing, of course, and it has the combination of Prankster and the screens, Reflect and Light Screen, which shield your team from incoming damage. On top of this, it also has Priority Parting Shot, which is quite excellent. Allows you to pivot out with priority. Also lower the enemy's attack and special attack, which sort of synergizes with the screens and can help assist a boost sweeper coming in to be even better. Grimmsnarl also gets priority Thunder Wave, which is nice. But also this is like all Grimmsnarl does, and it's extraordinarily telegraphed. As soon as you see a Grimmsnarl, you know exactly what it's going to do. It has like 5 options. And this can make Grimmsnarl extraordinarily predictable. Grimmsnarl's power sort of depends on the meta surrounding it. In early Gen 9, this guy was everywhere because Hyper Offense was the go, and Grimmsnarl is incredible at enabling Hyper Offense with screens and pivoting. But in current Gen 9, it's pretty bad. It's still on the viability rankings, amazingly, because I suppose the Hyper Offense that this can enable still has a place somewhere, but it's not quite on the power level it used to be. Grimmsnarl can also be used in Ubers for this purpose. It's good at setting screens up there. And I suppose you can also mention the fact that it has Spirit Break, which is a great attack. 75 power, 100 accuracy, with a 100% chance to lower special attack. That's a pretty good attack right there, and Grimmsnarl does have a high attack stat. I've seen people mess around with like semi-offensive Grimmsnarl using some Spirit Break. I don't know. I give Grimmsnarl respect for being extraordinarily good at one job and having pretty damn high usage in much of Gen 9 OU's lifespan. And I think also in early Gen 8 OU I recall some Grimmsnarl gaming. I don't know if that was as prevalent though, because Gen 8 was a bit of a slower metagame than Gen 9 is. Up next is Mega Houndoom. Mega Houndoom is an alright Mega for Gen 6 and 7 UU. You've got many of the same advantages of the original Houndoom, but a much higher special attack of 140. You're significantly faster as well, 115 speed. And I suppose you're not too bad defensively either. 90 in defense and special defense, 75 HP. Pretty workable. Unfortunately, Mega Houndoom loses its good ability Flash Fire in favor of Solar Power, which is much worse. Solar power grants a damage boost in Sun at the cost of taking some damage over time. It's a bit hard to justify using Mega Houndoom on a Sun team, but it is still used in Gen 6 and 7 UU purely for being a pretty good and fast Dark Fire type special attacker. That typing is still good. It's got options like Will-O-Wisp. It's a pretty good nasty plot user. It even has some OU merit sometimes in Gen 6. Pretty niche there, but you do see it occasionally. Not the best Mega in the world, but not the worst either. Up next is Crocodile. I actually like Crocodile very much. Evil Crocodile is a great character archetype. Very Donkey Kong adjacent. And Crocodile's kind of a hero of the mid-tiers. Crocodile was ranked UU from Gens 5 to 8, and it's currently RU in Gen 9. That's a respectable career. That's a consistent Pokemon. You gotta give some credit. Crocodile gets by largely on its ground dark typing, decent stats, and access to Intimidate. These are good qualities that have stood the test of time. It kind of feels like the Landorus Therian of mid-tiers, being a bulky-ish offensive ground type with Intimidate. Crocodile also has a good move pool. Earthquake, of course, knockoff, close combat. It can be a stealth rock setter too. Its stats are not the most amazing thing in the world, but they're solid enough. 92 speed. You're at least slightly above the 90 benchmark. That's alright. 117 attack is also workable. 95 HP is kind of a lot, actually, for a Pokemon offensively solid like this one. And 80 defense, 70 special defense, also workable. Moxie is another ability alternative if you want to go in a more offensive direction. I think Intimidate's far more common, though. Crocodile, overall, pretty consistent, pretty respectable. And I like him, especially as a fan for Croc for the PlayStation. Crocodile might be a bit evil for some people, though, a bit scary. Whereas Croc, the protagonist of the PlayStation game, is altruistic. He is saving the Gobbos purely out of obligation, as they raised him when he was a small crocodile. They raised him up and with his parents. So when the Gobbos were kidnapped, of course, he took up the mantle and said, I will put myself in peril purely to save the Gobbos out of the goodness of my own heart. While Crocodile is like, he's got an angry look in his eyes. He's going to knock off your item and defeat you. He's going to quake the earth with the intent of hurting you and harming you. Croc would never. So there's a bit of a dichotomy between the two, but if you have the stomach for it, I think Crocodile is a great Pokemon. Up next is Mandibuzz, who is another mid-tier hero. Mandibuzz finds itself ranked UU in most generations, including Gen 9, amazingly. And this is another Pokemon that I quite like, even though it's simple. It's just a regular old vulture, pretty much. I don't know why I like it, but I do. Mandibuzz is a dark flying type, with some pretty damn impressive defensive stats. 110 HP is solid, 105 defense, 95 special defense. These are good stats. Dark flying type gives it some nice defensive niches. Famously, Mandibuzz was the only thing standing in the way of Aegislash back in Generation 6 when that was running around. Mandibuzz could actually thwart Aegislash and defeat it. Aegislash, of course, ended up getting banned in that generation, but before it was banned, Mandibuzz was holding the world on its shoulders and keeping the metagame in check. Mandibuzz may be ranked UU in most generations, but it tends to punch above its weight and find places in OU from time to time. Mandibuzz was also good in Gen 8 against Spectria. Aegislash was also used there a little bit, so Mandibuzz helped, and that's also largely due to its good utility move pool. It has Roost for straightforward healing, Defog for hazard removal, U-turn for pivoting. It has Foul Play, which is nice against all these pesky ghosts, dealing damage with their attack stat, especially good against Aegislash. The ability Overcoat also occasionally comes in handy. Immunity to powder moves, like Sleep Powder, Spore, Stun Spore, and immunity to Sandstorm damage. Could be worse. Not the most amazing ability in the world, but it could be worse. It's a useful ability from time to time. Mandibuzz, just kind of a solid guy. Even though it's literally just a vulture from real life. It's like defeating incredibly powerful beings like Aegislash and Spectria. Very commendable. Up next is Iron Jugulis. I do hate to rank Iron Jugulis this high, I truly do. You all know that I hate Iron Jugulis very much. What if Hydreigon was a robot? What if it was a robot? Very smart, very cool. Oh, what if we named what do we name this Pokemon? Let's name Robot Hydreigon. Maybe Iron Neck? No, that's too obvious. We already called Hariyama Iron Hands. We can't just call Iron plus a body part. That would be too obvious. Let's get poetic with this one. Let's get poetic. Let's call in William Shakespeare for this particular Pokemon. Iron Jugulus. What even is Jugulus? It's a made-up word. Someone made up the word. Jugular, I guess. Jugular, because it's neck. It's a neck. What is up with the future paradox Pokemon naming conventions, man? Half of them are just the most mundane thing ever. Iron Moth. Okay. Iron Leaves. Very creative. Iron Leaves, folks. And then we, out of nowhere, Iron Jugulus. What is Jugulus? What is that? Anyway, sorry. Sorry, that's not relevant to Iron Jugulus's merit in a competitive battling context. Artistically, the bottom of the list by far. Artistically speaking, worst Pokemon ever made, but it is kind of good in competitive. It's ranked UU in Gen 9, which is pretty good. Gen 9's a tough world. UU ranking is respectable. It even has some OU viability. It's a dark flying type special attacker. It's got 122 special attack, 108 speed, okay stats elsewhere. It also has access to the booster energy. Since it's a future paradox Pokemon, it can use this for a speed boost, which is valued, and it has interesting and different offensive options like a Stab Hurricane, which hits pretty hard. Earth Power is a rather sought-after special attack that scarcely much gets, and Iron Jugulus does get it. Can be used on rain teams, perhaps, as a result of Hurricane being perfectly accurate. Iron Jugulus has some merit, and I hate to admit it, but it's true. It's true, he does. In battling, he does. Elsewhere, he does not have merit. Can we be clear? Can we be clear that elsewhere, in other departments in life, and battling is not the only thing that matters in the world. Even though I'm making a battling ranking right now, just remember that there's more to life than battling. This is just a battling-specific ranking. But if you exist purely for violence, I don't believe you're a well-rounded being on this world. Iron Jugulus exists purely for rage and violence and bloodlust, and I consider that to be a mark against it as a member of society. Up next is Mega Absol, another pretty good Mega in the Gen 6 and 7 UU formats, but one of those Megas that's not quite on the OU power level. Mega Absol's interesting. It has good stats. 150 attack is very commendable. It even has 115 special attack, so it's a mixed attacker there. And the speed is great. 115 speed is quite fast, but Mega Absol is very frail. 60 in both of its defenses, only 65 health. Mega Absol gains Magic Bounce upon Mega Evolving, which is an amazing ability that bounces back various status effects and hazards. Extraordinary ability, but generally a better ability on defensive Pokemon. Mega Absol doesn't get the most out of this, and it might prefer just a straightforward offensive ability to help it overcome its frailty. Does give it some entry points though, and the threat of Magic Bounce has a purpose. Mega Absol does suffer from a slightly shallow move pool. It gets knockoff, which is good, of course, and Sucker Punch, but it's lacking in coverage. It was able to use Pursuit in Gen 6 and 7 as a trapper. Trap things, which is nice, but it does feel like a slightly lacking Pokemon in terms of offensive coverage. But the great offensive stats, Magic Bounce, and hard-hitting Stab Knockoff plus Priority Sucker Punch gave it some merit in Gen 6 and 7 UU. Which is better than can be said for some other Megas. At least it's not down in the depths with like a Mega Ampharos or Mega Ordino or people like that. It's a cut above them. Up next is Mega Sharpedo. Also a Mega ranked in the UU tier in Gens 6 and 7, but Mega Sharpedo is one of the better Megas. One of the better Pokemon in these formats. When Mega Sharpedo evolves, it receives the new ability Strong Jaw, which grants a boost to biting moves. Very good for Sharpedo Mega, who has Crunch and Psychic Fangs and other biting moves in its moveset. Significant increase to the damage output. And it's nice that Mega Sharpedo has a base form with Speed Boost, so that it can gain some speed and then Mega Evolve to not only increase its attack up to 140, but also gain this great offensive ability to further enhance its attack. The base form and the Mega form work in conjunction with one another. For this reason, it also has a little bit of merit in Gen 6 OU. There's stiff competition for other Megas there, but Mega Sharpedo can be used occasionally for this nice synergy between its base form and its mega form, and the speed and damage output it can represent as a nice late game cleaner. I happen to think this is one of the cooler mega Pokemon designs with the nice harmony between its base and mega form, even if it's not quite OU ranked. I enjoy the design of it and the way that it plays in game. Fun one to use for sure. Up next is Alolan Muck, my favorite dark type. A beautiful regional form, probably the best regional form ever made, in the eyes of the critics. Alolan Muck is a beautiful rainbow muck. It has a poison dark type, which is a massive buff to regular muck. Poison dark is such a good typing. And Muckalola perhaps the most competitively relevant of the poison dark types, because it has nice well-rounded stats, and in Gen 7, it was really nice as a pursuit trapper. You could chuck an assault vest on this and you have one of the sturdiest, especially bulky attackers in the game. Muckalola matched up well in Gen 7 OU against such fellas as Tapu Lele, Mega Alakazam, which are ever-present forces of offense that are everywhere. Poison Dark with an assault vest just lends itself well to the meta too. Nice mix of offense and defense, plus you're only weak to ground, so you switch in against most special attackers completely safely. And at least threaten to knock off their item. Your gunk shot hits really hard and you can make quick work of like a Clefable. Pursuit trapping those pesky individuals like Tapu Lele, like Mega Alakazam, and like Blacephalon, etc. is also valued. You even have Poison Touch, which spreads poison, and that's highly valued. Even though Muckalola is officially ranked in the RU tier, it punched well above its weight. I consider it a good Pokemon in OU, and I even consider it a good Pokemon in Gen 7 Ubers. An Assault Vest Pursuit Muckalola can trap and eliminate Mega Mewtwo Y. That is not a joke. That is not a joke, because Mega Mewtwo Y has no ground coverage, and you are completely immune to Psy Strike. Muckalola can switch right in. The Assault Vest bulk helps you take just about any hit, and if they try to exit, they're getting pursuited and they're going to perish. Muckalola also matches up against Lunala very well. You resist its ghost moves, you're immune to its psychic moves, and you hit it with times for super effective dark damage, and you can pursuit trap the guy. Alolan Muck matches up well against specially leaning Yveltal sets, Arceus Ghost, perhaps even Xerneas. And Moonblast will still hit you for big neutral, but I think you can live one from full and hit them with a big gunk shot. You're also not too bad against the non-Geomancy ones. Alolan Muck actually quite good in Gen 7 Ubers, happens to match up well against a lot of common stuff there, and take on some of the biggest legendaries ever. Very inspirational for Muck Nation, which I'm a part of. I'm a part of Muck Nation. Unfortunately, Alolan Muck was devastated by the loss of Pursuit in Gen 8, but it maintains a solid role as a cool Poison Dark type with well-rounded stats and the ability to knock things off, spread poison, and be an alright bulky attacker, and to pivot into special moves. Alolan Muck is inspiring to the entire world. The entire world is inspired by Alolan Muck's story, and I want you all to comment down below, say thank you Alolan Muck for all that you've done. Please say thank you to him so that he understands that he is appreciated. Up next is Zarude, a Pokemon that is far better than it looks, apparently. That I slandered in the past, but is actually kind of alright in Gen 9. Zarude has a Dark Grass typing, which is pretty bad, defensively speaking, in many ways, but Zarude is fast enough and offensively alright enough to take advantage of the benefits of the typing offensively. It's got a 105 speed, 120 attack, and its defenses are well-rounded, 105 HP and defense and 95 special defense. Zarude has a useless ability in Leaf Guard. It grants status immunity in the sun. It's better than nothing, but it's not the most amazing ability. But Zarude kind of gets by just on solid stats, pretty good attacking profile with knockoff and power whip. Zarude also gets the exclusive move Jungle Healing, which is pretty good. It cures your status and also heals you for 1/4 of your max HP. Like a better version of Refresh, and that's kind of nice in Gen 9, where I believe Refresh was completely removed, so having some status curing that also heals you a bit can go a long way. And Zarude is decent with Bulk Up and Swords Dance sweeper sets. You can utilize Terra to assist it in setting up. So Zarude kind of seems like garbage, but it's just solid enough to be UUBL in Gen 9, which is actually damn respectable. It's got some OU viability, and there have been some teams that have hit high ladder with the Pokemon. It has things to offer to you. Who would have thought it? Up next is Crawdaunt, Mr. Craw himself. A Pokemon that I like very much. Crawdaunt is the ultimate breaker. Crawdaunt has a water dark typing, which is nice offensively. It has the ability Adaptability, which enhances its stab damage to ×2 instead of ×1.5. Very good offensive ability, especially with such good stab types. And Crawdaunt just hits incredibly hard off the back of 120 attack, this ability, and its stab moves, Knock Off, Aqua Jet, Crab, Hammer. The downside is that Crawdaunt is extraordinarily frail, its HP and defensive stats are bad, and it's very slow. But if Crawdaunt is in against something that is slower and it has the opportunity to select Knock Off or Crab Hammer, it will likely be getting a KO. Crawdaunt benefits greatly from defensive pivots to find it entry points. It's a very hit and run Pokemon. And Aqua Jet also helps a lot because it allows it to overcome its low speed and clean up end games. Crawdaunt may not always be ranked OU, but it always has a place there as just the ultimate button clicker and wall breaker. It saw success in Gen 6, 7, and 8 OU as a result of this. Unfortunately, in Gen 9, the existence of Hisuian Samurott has been a real thorn in Crawdaunt's side. Hisuian Samurott has the same type profile, but is far better with a dark type attack that also sets spikes, ceaseless edge. It's hard to justify Crawdaunt when there's a Pokemon with the exact same typing, who also hits pretty hard and just does more for teams. Most of the time, if you were going to put Crawdaunt on, it's just better to put Hisuian Samurott on, so that's bad. But Crawdaunt still ends up RU in Gen 9. I'm sure it could also still be justified on some OU teams, due to its breaking power and its incredibly hard-hitting knockoff and nice priority in Aqua Jet. A delightful Pokemon that is the bane of stall, and one of the most fun Pokemon to use. Extraordinarily simple, he just clicks stab moves, but he does it well. Crawdaunt. Mr. Craw. He's also old-fashioned. He calls you on the telephone, and he expects you to pick up. I'm not always at the telephone, Crawdaunt. Send a text message or something next time. Send a Discord ping. I'm not always able to answer the telephone. Up next is Hydreigon, a Pokemon that I like very much. Hydreigon is an awesome pseudo-legendary. It's a dark dragon type, beautiful visual, three-headed dragon, very cool, and Hydreigon stands out among other pseudo-legendaries with a pretty good and distinct move pool with unique options like Earth Power and Stab Dark Pulse and a Flash Cannon and even U-Turn for pivoting. Hydreigon lends itself well to the role of a Choice Specs wall breaker. It also has Levitate, by the way, for ground immunity, and its stats are damn good. They're very solid. 125 special attack is very high, all its bulk is well-rounded, even has a good attack stat, allowing it to use options like Superpower for mixed coverage. 98 speed is a little bit unfortunate because you're just below 100, but it's still pretty fast enough to get the job done much of the time. Hydreigon is never quite on the level of OU, but it's always got niches here and there in OU formats. I think the unfortunate speed tier and the competition with other dragon types can hold it back, but it's still a damn impressive Pokemon. I think that's undeniable. And in Gen 9, it's aged pretty well. It's ranked RUBL, which I think is pretty good by Gen 9 standards, and many teams have used it in OU as its nice typing that is unique for a special attacker plus Levitate, plus pivoting, plus hard-hitting Draco Meteor and Earth Power and such. These options still stand out. It has Stealth Rock now in Gen 9 and Nasty Plot since Gen 8, so those are considerable as well. It is a good Pokemon and I think one of the coolest pseudo-legendaries. Up next is Galarian Moltres, a new alternative form of Moltres introduced in Gen 8. This is a dark flying type with some different stats. It has lower special attack, only 100 special attack, but some great special defense this time around, 125 there. Generally well-rounded stats as well, as you can expect from a Legendario. Galarian Moltres has the ability Berserk, which is interesting. You gain a +1 special attack boost when you reach half or less of your max HP. So you kind of have this built-in special attack boost that activates when things try to hit you. For this reason, Galarian Moltres could be used as an interesting win condition. It has agility to boost its speed, And it works well with the weakness policy, because if the enemy tries to hit you, you're bulky enough to survive most super effective hits. You will gain special attack, 2 stages of special attack from the weakness policy, and another one from Berserk, and then you'll have a massive speed stat with which to sweep. So it's kind of a Pokemon that lends itself well to this win condition role. It also has nasty plot if you'd rather just boost your special attack direct. And it's awkward to deal with when hitting the guy with an attack that deals damage against it can actually buff it and play into its hand. Galarian Moltres is ranked UUBL in Gen 8 and 9, and has seen some play in OU in both formats. It's a respectable guy. It's kind of one-dimensional, it kind of just does this and nothing else, but this is good enough to justify its existence. Up next is Meowscarada, the Grass-type starter of Gen 9. And a great Pokemon. Meowscarada is a Grass Dark type, which I've said many times is not a great typing defensively, but Meowscarada is a very offensive Pokemon. It's fast, with 123 base speed, it's got a good attack set of 110, and it has the ability Protean, which you're probably familiar with from Greninja. Protean will change your Pokemon's type to match whatever move it uses. In Gen 9, this only works once per switch in. It used to be a much better ability, but Meowscarada takes pretty solid advantage of this with its ability to U-turn out and temporarily boost the power of U-turn by becoming a bug type. Meowscarada has the excellent signature move Flower Trick, which is a 70 power grass type attack that always critical hits, meaning it will have a higher effective power and also bypass defensive boosts, which is very useful. Meowscarada is great at knocking off items, pivoting, and Triple Axle is excellent coverage, especially because you get the Protean boost with it. Just a solid physical attacking offensive pivot. Not quite OU ranked right now. It has been OU ranked in the past, and it's been pretty solidly used throughout the lifespan of Gen 9, but undeniably a good Pokemon, and sort of like a physical twist on what Greninja has going on, with more of an emphasis on pivoting and a hit and run type thing. Up next is Low Kicks, and some might disagree with me putting this above Meowscarada. It has a technically lower tier ranking of UU, and Meowscarada is very good, of course. But I actually think Low Kicks is a bit better. I believe it's higher on the VR right now, and I just think it's a more consistent and powerful choice. Low Kicks is a cool new bug type introduced in Gen 9. A bug dark type with a physical lean. Its stats aren't great. It only has 102 attack, 92 speed. Terrible stats elsewhere, but what makes Low Kicks amazing is its ability Tinted Lens, one of the best offensive abilities you can get. Tinted Lens grants double damage against enemies that resist your attacks, effectively erasing the resistance and making just about every move you click neutral. The consistency that this provides and the fact that nothing can really switch in against what you click seriously enhances Low Kicks and allows it to be a great wall breaker, especially because its bug and dark type stab options are so great. It has First Impression, which has 90 power and almost always goes first. You can only use it on the first turn out, but this is an incredible hit and run priority option that is also difficult to switch in against because of Tinted Lens. You have Knockoff as well, which you can never go wrong with, and U-turn for pivoting, which is harder to resist as a result of Tinted Lens. Low Kicks is great as a breaker that you pivot into. It's pretty fast as well with 92 speed, and it's just damn difficult to switch in against. It's going to remove items, it's going to deal unresisted big damage, and it's a bug with big dreams and big ambition, and I admire it. I admire Low Kicks. Up next is Hoopa Unbound, a Legendario Pokemon, and a weird one to evaluate because it's a very extreme Pokemon. It has truly excellent stats, 160 attack, 170 special attack, 130 special defense, and a pretty good speed of 80 as well. Nice offensive move pool, and it's just an outstanding breaker. But Hoopa Unbound has a terrible type combination. Psychic Dark is horrible, especially due to times for bug weakness, fairy weakness. And Hoopa Unbound has an interesting career. It's banned in Gen 6, it's Ubers. In other tiers it's legal, and sometimes it's not ranked OU, it's UUBL currently in Gen 9. It is a good Pokemon, but it can sometimes feel a bit inconsistent due to its defensive shortcomings from the typing. Up next is Mega Gyarados. Perhaps my favorite Mega. I really like Mega Gyarados. Mega Gyarados is cool because it also has a bit of synergy between its base form and its Mega form. The base form of Gyarados is good in its own right. It actually stands on its own with its access to Intimidate, and its water flying typing. But when it Mega Evolves, Gyarados becomes water dark typing. It changes type, and it gains the ability Mold Breaker, which ignores enemy abilities. This is cool because the type change means that you can time your Mega for the right moment, and even sometimes disguise whether or not you're Mega. You can keep flying typing activated if that's better in the matchup or something, so there's a nice choice between whether you want a Mega or not with Gyarados. And being a water dark type with Mold Breaker, you have Stab Crunch, which is a really great option, and you also completely ignore Unaware, which is really good for a Dragon Dance sweeper. Unaware is an ability that completely ignores stat stage changes, so Quagsire with Unaware against like a +6 attack Garchomp will take the same amount of damage. It'll ignore all the stats, but Mold Breaker will ignore Unaware, so there's ignorance of the ignorance, and Mega Gyarados can actually power through Storlia teams thanks to this ability. You can also Earthquake against levitating Pokemon and Taunt against Magic Bounce Pokemon, etc. Mold Breaker is a great ability. And Mega Gyarados has fantastic stats. Water Dark typing, by the way, also really good. Psychic Immunity comes in handy. Offensively amazing. But the stats are truly excellent. 155 attack, great defenses. 81 speed is plenty with a Dragon Dance to boost up the speed. Just a great Mega OU level in Gen 6 and 7. And one of my favorites to use. Up next is Mega Tyranitar, another OU ranked Mega that is solid and pretty consistently used in Gens 6 and 7 OU. Mega Tyranitar is Tyranitar but stronger. It has much higher stats, notably a 164 attack, which is enormous, and fantastic defenses as well, 150 and 120 in each of the defenses, plus 100 base HP. Nothing else about it is different though. It has Sandstream still as its ability, the same typing and all the same moveset options of course. But Mega Tyranitar was the go-to choice for Dragon Dance sets. Dragon Dance Mega Tyranitar was a very good boost sweeper in Gen 6 and 7 OU with fantastic bulk, allowing it to really reliably boost up, especially because not only is its special defense really high, but it gets special defense due to the Sandstorm, which allows rock types to have a special defense bonus. This is a pretty straightforward one. It's just a good blob of stats that clicks Dragon Dance and sweeps teams. And you can't go too wrong with that. Plus it sets Sand, which might be useful for an ally like an Excadrill or somebody. Up next is Weavile. Weavile's kind of a classic glass cannon offensive physical attacker. Great Pokemon. It's a dark ice type. Terrible defensively, but amazing offensively. Weavile, ever since Gen 6, has been a great fast wall breaker with 120 attack and the knockoff that was newly buffed in Gen 6. Great with a choice band. Ice Shard helps to have some priority. And Weavile is good in Gen 6, 7, and 8 OU. Especially Gen 8, as getting heavy duty boots was a huge buff. And also getting triple axle was a huge buff, a new ice type attack with a multi-hit effect that ramps with each hit. Weavile remains viable in Gen 9, even if it's not currently ranked OU. It is still used, and is still solid. It's a simple but effective, fast, glass cannon physical attacker that does a good job. Up next is Hisuian Samurott, one of the most competitively successful of the Hisuian Pokemon, and currently a staple of Gen 9 OU, which is a real mark of success. Hisuian Samurott is another Water Dark type, which is a great offensive type combo, and to be honest, the Pokemon is pretty much completely average, beyond the fact that it has one of the strongest attacks in the game. Ceaseless Edge. This is the reason to use Hisuian Samurott. This move is so good that it carries an otherwise bad Pokemon to Gen 9 OU viability, which says a lot. Ceaseless Edge is a physical dark type attack with 65 power, 90 accuracy that sets spikes on the field as its secondary effect. To attack and set spikes on the field at the same time is extraordinarily powerful. Setting spikes is already powerful on its own, so attacking and setting spikes is just really good, especially on a dark type attack that also hits hard because Ceaseless Edge is boosted by your ability Sharpness, which grants 1.5x damage to slicing moves, and this is a slicing move. Sharpness actually means that Hisuian Samurott hits much harder than you'd think with 108 attack. Because not only is Ceaseless Edge boosted by Sharpness, so is Razor Shell, a slicing move that also lowers defense with a 50% chance, and Sacred Sword also hits hard with some coverage to hit such fellas as King Gambit, plus Sacred Sword ignores stat stage changes. Hisuian Samurott is an extraordinary Pokemon in Gen 9 OU, one of the most consistent and highly used in the tier. largely due to the incredible power of a single move. But it helps that its other attacks are quite good, and it has sharpness, which is a good ability, and its typing is good. These things also help. Up next is Ting Lu, a new Legendario from Gen 9, one of the Treasures of Ruin, and a staple of OU ever since Gen 9 released. This Pokemon is fantastic in OU. This is a Dark Ground type with some of the best defensive stats ever. 155 HP is enormous, 125 defense is also enormous, and 80 special defense may not seem like much, but then you see that the ability is Vessel of Ruin, which lowers the opponent's special attack, multiplying it by 0.75, resulting in very high effective special bulk. Ting Lu even has a pretty good attack stat of 110 on top of that amazing bulk. The Dark Ground typing is also surprisingly good defensively with stats like these, with some nice resistances. Ting Lu has Stealth Rock and Spikes, and that is the main thing it does. Its move pool is actually quite shallow, to be honest. Ting Lu doesn't have good healing, status, progress making, but all you really need is the hazards. A defensive guy that comes in, sets hazards, and it could also Whirlwind to play around boost sweepers and remove their boost, so that's useful. Beyond that, Ting Lu can Earthquake, which does hit pretty hard off the back of its good base attack. Just a very solid defensive spiker and utility Pokemon in Gen 9 OU that is extraordinarily consistent and high performing. It's been highly used since the beginning. I'm sure this will be an eternal staple of the format and probably really good in competitive singles if it ever returns. Up next is Greninja, one of the most famous Pokemon in the series. Greninja debuted in Gen 6, where it was by far the most powerful of the new starters. A Water Dark type with the new ability Protean, which allowed it to change its type on a whim every time it clicks a move, effectively giving plus stab damage to every single move it clicked. Greninja was actually a bit too overwhelming for Gen 6 OU and was banned to Ubers in that generation due to its incredible consistent damage output, high speed, and difficulty in defensive responses. In Gen 7, Greninja was one of the top Pokemon of OU, with its new Battle Bond ability allowing it to become Ash Greninja upon earning a KO. And Ash Greninja had truly ludicrous stats on the level of a legendary. Ash Greninja was a top tier Pokemon in this format. And Protean Greninja also saw consistent play, with the utility of changing your type being useful for mixed sets and niche sets like a Dig Z to hit Heatran and other things, and hit Megiana. Greninja could also set spikes. It could be scarved, it could be mixed with a Life Orb. Extraordinarily versatile Pokemon in Gen 7. Unfortunately in Gen 9, Greninja has been significantly nerfed. Both Battle Bond and Protean are weaker now, but I think that you've got to give Greninja immense respect for the high heights it achieved in prior gens, being an Uber's Pokemon in Gen 6 and a top tier Pokemon in Gen 7 OU. At the height of its career, this Pokemon was elite. Up next is Tyranitar, the most consistent Pokemon in competitive singles history. OU ranked in every single generation it appears in. A top tier Pokemon in Gens 3, 4, and 5 OU, a consistent force in Gen 6 and 7, and yes, it's ranked above its own Mega Form because without the burden of having to carry an item slot, it has more set variety with options like Assault Vest and Type Resist Berries. And its stats are perfectly good enough in the base form to function very well. For many years, Tyranitar was an elite Pursuit Trapper, but in Generation 8, Pursuit was removed from the game, regrettably, but Tyranitar clung onto OU viability against the odds, reinventing itself with Choice Band Breaker sets, leveraging its excellent bulk in the Sandstorm at its high attack and excellent move pool for a competitive advantage. It was not always ranked OU in Gen 8, but it ended up OU by the generation's end. And the same is happening in Gen 9. Tyranitar has had a struggle in this generation with adversaries like Great Tusk and Gliscor being so common and so prevalent. King Gambit kind of taking some of its spot as a bulky dark type attacker, but Tyranitar earned the move Knockoff in Gen 9, which was a huge buff, and it has started to rise in usage with heavy duty boots, bulky attacker sets, and choice band breaker sets being good. Its move pool, its incredibly versatile move pool, also allowing it to punish common switch-ins and threaten much of the metagame. This excellent rock dark type that sets sand on the field and has very well-rounded stats is beloved by all, even though it is seen across many competitive generations. I feel it always enhances formats rather than hindering them, as it's powerful in a rather unique way. It's rock dark, which would seem like a terrible typing, but it works regardless. It is targetable with times 4 fighting weakness. It's not too fast. This low speed keeps it in check, and the versatility it provides, the sheer amount of different ways you can use the guy, just also tends to enhance metagames and encourages player creativity. It's never good when a top Pokemon is too one-dimensional, and Tyranitar certainly isn't. Up next is Roaring Moon, a new Gen 9 past Paradox version of Salamence that is a Dragon Dark type now. Roaring Moon was legal in Gen 9 OU for quite a while, and while it was an extraordinarily dominant force. Its stats are excellent, very well rounded in bulk, speed, and attack. 139 attack is quite high, and so is 119 speed. Roaring Moon is an amazing Dragon Dance sweeper, especially since it earned knockoff in DLC, which was a huge buff for it. It is a past Paradox Pokemon, so it can use Photosynthesis and Booster Energy for a temporary single-use buff. And it has access to Acrobatics, which is pretty fantastic for flying coverage that is also boosted by the fact that you have no item after Booster Energy is consumed. Terra Flying is a popular Terra type on this, not only to boost the damage of Acrobatics, but to become resistant to flying and immune to ground, and gain defensive benefit. This was an extraordinary combo that was good at the start of the gen and good towards the end of Roaring Moon's time in OU as well. Roaring Moon could have used various different Terra types with various different coverage options to extraordinary success. A simple Pokemon, but an absolutely overwhelmingly powerful one that is currently banned from OU and is ranked in the Uber tier. Up next is Chien Pao, another of the Treasures of Ruin Legendarios, and a higher end one. This is the physical attacker of the bunch, and it is an insane physical attacker. Chien Pao has 135 speed, which is very fast, and 120 physical attack, also incredibly imposing and threatening. But it ends up dealing more damage than you would think due to its ability Sword of Ruin, which multiplies the enemy's defense stat by 0.75, allowing for a much higher effective attack than just 120. The speed and damage output of this Pokemon, along with incredible Dark Ice offensive typing and a move pool full of plenty of incredible stab options, just about made Chien Pao so overwhelming for OU. It was allowed in OU for longer than you would expect, but not that long. It has been banned for quite a while. And when you look at it, this is just a much better version of Weavile, isn't it? It's faster, bulkier, has more options. It has Sucker Punch as well, so even if you do outrun it with some sort of speed control like a Scarfer, you're threatened by the Sucker Punch. Chien Pao is insane, and it's even viable up in Ubers, which not a lot of Pokemon banned from OU can say that they are, but Chien Pao, even in Ubers, has incredible wall breaking and damage output, plus priority that hits Koraidon like Ice Shard. Chien Pao is an extraordinary physical attacker and one of the strongest dark types we have ever seen. Up next is Mega Sableye, and some would disagree with me putting this guy above Chien Pao, and don't get me wrong, Chien Pao is very powerful, but I would put Mega Sableye a bit higher. This is one of the strongest Megas. Mega Sableye is a dark ghost type, just like its base form, but now it has incredible bulk, with a much higher defense and special defense. Its HP is still low, but the bulk enhancements are appreciated, and its new ability Magic Bounce is truly excellent. Magic Bounce, one of the strongest defensive abilities in the whole game, that bounces back various status effects and hazards. Magic Bounce grants you a complete immunity to status effectively, and it's even better than an immunity to status, because if they try to status you, they will status themselves due to the bouncing. It also gives you a form of counterplay against hazards, which is another one of the real benefits of it. Stealth Rock setters and Spike setters will be wary to select hazards against you if you have a Magic Bounce user on your team. These qualities made Mega Sableye a genuinely good Pokemon in Gen 6 and 7 Ubers, which remember is a very high power level format where there are ridiculous megas like Gengar and Salamence, and also the primal forms of Kyogre and Groudon. This is not a low power level old gen, this is Gen 6 and 7 Ubers. Some of the strongest formats we've ever seen, and Mega Sableye is genuinely good in this format due to its great bulk, great typing, Magic Bounce, and also its good matchup against Primal Groudon. A Mega Sableye is actually one of the strongest ways to lead off against a Primal Groudon. You completely block it from making hazards, which it commonly likes to do, You hit it with Foul Play, which hits extremely hard in Ubers when everything has such a higher base attack, especially Primal Groudon, who has a ridiculously high base attack. You can also Toxic it to permanently cripple it and status it. And with full defense EVs, you also can actually take hits from the damn thing. Mega Sableye also comes in handy against other Spike and Stealth Rock setters, status spreaders in Ubers. You know, Ferrothorn and offensive Sticky Web leads and other such things. Its typing actually matches up well against Arceus, because Arceus usually runs Extreme Speed and Shadow Claw. You're immune to Extreme Speed and neutral to Shadow Claw. With full defense and Foul Play, you will punish them for Swords Dancing Up. Foul Play also matches up well against things like Zygarde, Mega Salamence. Just a great move in Uber's Foul Play, so I give Mega Sableye a lot of points for actually being a really good and consistent choice in Gen 6 and 7 Ubers, more so than I think Chien-Pao is in Gen 9 Ubers. Chien-Pao is good in Gen 9 Ubers, but I think Mega Sableye is actually one of the best Megas you can use. It's just so useful, matches up so well against things, gives you a nice safety net against any boost sweeper and against hazards. Up next is Urshifu, an Ubers ranked Pokemon in both Gen 8 and 9. Urshifu is an extraordinarily powerful physical attacking wall breaker. It is a dark fighting type, which is a great offensive combo. 130 attack is very good. Its ability is Unseen Fist, which allows it to bypass Protection, and that's amazing. This is more relevant in doubles, where Protect is more common and more important, but Protect is still used a lot in singles, and powering through like a Gliscor clicking Protect, or anything clicking Protect really, is significant. Urshifu also has the insane signature move Wicked Blow, which is a 75 power dark move that always crits. This results in a very high power move that is spammable as hell, and also bypasses defensive boosts completely. Close combat with Stab also hits incredibly hard. You can even U-turn for pivoting, and Sucker Punch for priority really rounds everything out. I mean, if you thought you were going to outrun and KO this with something faster, Sucker Punch will likely be the death of you. Up next is Chi-Yu, the greatest of the Treasures of Ruin Legendario Quartet. Chi-Yu is a dark fire type with some of the strongest special attacking damage output that we have ever seen in the whole series. Chi-Yu has a 135 special attack, which is very good. Its other stats are pretty good too, high special defense and solid base 100 speed. And its ability Beads of Ruin lowers the enemy's special defense on switch in, resulting in an incredibly high effective special attack, paired with Terra to multiply your stab damage by 1.5x. This is just one of the strongest wall breakers Pokemon has ever seen. Chi-Yu's Fire Blast with Terra Fire is able to two-hit Blissey, for goodness sake, who is usually not supposed to be able to be defeated by special attackers, so that says a lot. Chi-Yu, when it was in OU, was literally indestructible. There was no answer to this at all. At least Dracovish you could answer with its Seismitoad. Chi-Yu had no switch-ins, even hard special walls are getting destroyed. And I believe it's still used up in Ubers. It benefits from Koraidon Sun. Things can scarcely switch in against it. If Chi-Yu existed in past gens, I think it would also be really good. It also helps that Dark is your other offensive type, and Dark Fire is just a great offensive type combo. Dark is very spammable and very good. How can such a small fish achieve such big things? Scientists are trying to figure that out, and they might never truly understand the extent of it. Up next is King Gambit, and I know what you're thinking, Jimothy, how could you put a mere OU ranked Pokemon above literal banned Ubers level Pokemon like Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao and Roaring Moon? Well, folks, a lot of people think King Gambit shouldn't be in OU. A lot of people think that leaving this guy in OU was a mistake. Now, I think now it's too late to ban it. It's existed in the tier for too long, it's defined the identity of Gen 9 OU, but maybe back in the day they should have banned the guy because, let's be honest, it is ridiculously centralizing, perhaps to an extent that might be considered unhealthy by some. So that's a factor, and also, allow me to show you the Gen 9 Ubers viability rankings. At the moment, King Gambit comes in at an A- rank. A-, that's like a high tier Pokemon. It's in the same tier as Arceus Ghost, and King Gambit is currently outranking not only Chien-Pao, Chi-Yu, and Roaring Moon, which aren't even that outstanding in Gen 9 Ubers. They are used from time to time, but not central threats or anything. King Gambit is higher ranked than Calyrex Ice Rider, Giratina Origin, Groudon, Kyurem Black, Rayquaza. King Gambit is better than Mewtwo. King Gambit is actually one of the stronger physical, bulky attackers in Gen 9 Ubers, and I think that should say a lot. King Gambit is extraordinary, with Dark Steel typing being excellent, fantastic stats, especially 135 attack, and one of the strongest abilities competitive singles has ever seen, Supreme Overlord, which grants 10% bonus power for each fallen ally. This is the big thing that makes Kingambit so ridiculous. This flat damage boost to a Pokemon that already has such high attack, along with Stab, Sucker Punch, means that Kingambit can literally solo entire teams if it's the last Pokemon standing, because it has a 50% power boost and possibly a Swords Dance boost and Sucker Punch and Terra. Kingambit is famous for doing this in OU, and it can do it in Ubers too. Even legendaries aren't safe from the sheer amount of damage output a Kingambit last can achieve, folks. This is a incredibly overpowered Pokemon, and genuinely better than most legendaries in the game. So I think that should say a lot about how good Kingambit is. Up next is Darkrai, which is an interesting one because, of course, you might not think this is an appropriate ranking. This is a very high ranking for a Pokemon that is presently OU in Gen 9 and has fallen off significantly in recent generations. But I would like to give Darkrai the respect of ranking it at its peak. And at its peak, Darkrai was one of the strongest special attackers in Ubers. Darkrai is a Dark-type mythical with excellent offensive stats, and formerly one of the strongest sleep-inflicting moves on a fast Pokemon ever, Dark Void, which used to have 80% accuracy. Darkrai was the sleep setter of Ubers from generations 4 to 6, and this made it formidable. On top of this amazing sleep setting move, which is incredible with such a high speed of 125, Darkrai also has Bad Dreams, which causes sleeping foes to take 1/8 of their max HP at the end of each turn, adding a very powerful damage over time effect to the already excellent sleep status, which prevents the enemy from moving. Darkrai is excellent for this combo of sleep inflicting plus nasty plot, and at the height of its power it was a tremendous Pokemon, and one of the strongest dark types in history. Unfortunately though, in Generation 7, Dark Void was nerfed from 80 accuracy down to 50 accuracy, and this is because Smeargle was using it in VGC doubles to put both opponents to sleep, because Dark Void in doubles hits both opponents. So Darkrai unfortunately got nerfed as a result of something Smeargle was doing. So now Darkrai had to use Hypnosis instead of Dark Void, which was far worse than pre-nerf Dark Void. Only 60 accuracy is just less reliable. You don't want to bet the house on a 60% sleep move hitting. So this plummeted Darkrai's viability in Ubers overnight. And eventually in Gen 9, Darkrai was tested in OU and allowed to exist in OU. Rather embarrassing for a formerly elite Ubers Pokemon. But still, I think that Darkrai deserves the Legacy Award for being one of the most iconic, powerful Dark types, with an incredibly high peak in its former life. And many believe the Dark Void nerf was undeserved. I mean, that's a whole can of worms, I won't get into it, but I do believe Darkrai deserves the spot of second best Dark type in history. And finally, the most powerful Dark type of all time, and one of the most strongest legendaries ever in general, is Yveltal, the box legendary of Pokemon Y version. A bird shaped like the letter Y, and a truly elite Pokemon in all areas. This is a dark flying type. With very good stats, it is a mixed attacker with 131 in its attack and special attack, a great HP stat, well-rounded defenses, and a good speed of 99. Yveltal has Dark Aura, which grants a bonus 1.33x power, repeating of course, to all of its dark type attacks. It also boosts the enemy's Dark-type attacks, actually, but that's not as relevant for them as it is for you. So Yveltal has an extraordinary damage output. It can be a special attacker or a physical attacker with Dark Pulse and Knockoff in its move set. And Yveltal also has the excellent signature move Oblivion Wing, which is a flying-type special attack with 80 power that recovers 75% of the damage dealt, much higher than other draining effects. Yveltal can even run some utility sets. It learns Defog and Taunt. It has Sucker Punch for priority. It's just an extremely consistent Pokemon in every Ubers format it exists in, which is Gen 6, 7, and 8. With such solid stats, incredible damage output, the strongest knockoff in Ubers, and fantastic versatility, it's just such an easy Pokemon to throw into a team and get value out of. Yveltal is absolutely the best Dark type of all time, and I also happen to quite like the Pokemon. I think it's really fun to use in Ubers. Its presence is appreciated. It's a cool, powerful legendary with really cool set variety, customizability. I remember experimenting with like a Salt Vest Yveltal in Gen 7 which I came up with myself. Maybe someone else came up with it before me, but I arrived at it independently. I think there were choice scarf sets and berries, type berries. I think it gets heat wave, which is useful to hit a Magina and other things. It's just a beautiful Pokemon, and a worthy recipient of the crown of top 1 dark type ever. And that does it, folks. A ranking of every dark type in the series. Thank you again to Oof Hixt for helping me out with some of the more nuanced and difficult to determine list positions. If you liked the video, please press the like button down below to signify that you liked it digitally, and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, folks.